She added that if I was not too busy every day, she wanted my service to go to their house and cut the grass in their yard. I agreed, the appointment was made, and I was able to carry out the project. Catherine and her husband were satisfied with my work. Madam paid me, and she told me that she had something for me if I could accept. One of her neighbors had passed away, and she wanted to bring me into the house if I wanted some necessary things for my family that would come soon. We went there, and indeed, I found things that we could use. This acceptance motivated her later to take us to another home with my family, and we benefited from many other things that were going to be donated to Goodwill. Catherine and Joe kept a good relationship with us until we moved to Grand Junction. Jack and Amy played a very important role in the education of my children. They initiated the meeting with Jackie Burt, the director of One Room School, ORSH, to talk to me about the advantage that my children would have by going to the school, as they had no background in English. Grace, the youngest, had not yet gone to school in Chad, but the four had gone to learn French, except Sephora, the oldest, who learned basic English at the beginning of high school. By their effort, they got the scholarship from ACE. This initiative helped the four children throughout the school year, but the youngest had to finish her school year at the kindergarten ran by Nancy. There would still be a lot of such testimony in the lines to come, but let us talk about the family journey first. The family's trip from Chad to Gunnison, Colorado. Contributions from all over were enough to pay for the airline tickets of my 6 family members. A lot of suggestions had been made to me by people. For example, looking for guides who would take care of my family from Chad to the destination, or going myself and bringing them back. I obeyed God's guidance, which was to pay the airline tickets and let God guide your wife and the children. I did not know the connection system, so instead of choosing the airport in Washington, D.C., which would be the entry airport and at the same time the connection point for Denver International Airport, DIA, I made a mistake, thinking that I was smart. The arrival should be at Dulles, but the connection should be from Ronald Reagan Airport for GIA. I was happy because it saved me a few bucks, compared to connecting from Dulles, according to research done online on the day of booking. I had my minivan but had never driven to Denver and back on my own, so I was afraid to try not to endanger the entire family life. Driving inside of Denver itself would be a big problem as well. Pastor Chris from New Song Church offered me the minivan that I just had to pay for gasoline, but I refused for the same reasons. The day of departure for the family from Chad was August 5, 2012, and with the time zone difference, they were due to arrive in Washington on August 6. I informed Ramaja and his parents, Mukobai and Zara, of my arrival and the probable arrival of the family in Denver. Alan's family was also informed. Alan was still working at the airport. He made a proposal that came from God's plan and favor for me and my family. Although working at the airport, he was on the maintenance side, but he had friends who could lead the family step by step until outside the airport. He did not stop there. He added by saying that my family would spend the night at his place, and that in the morning, Marilyn, his wife, he, and his son Jonathan, his wife, and their baby would bring us to Gunnison. Early in the morning of August 5, 2012, I traveled by bus to Denver. I did not want to risk anything, therefore, I avoided traveling on the same day, August 6. Being in Denver, I spoke with Alan about my arrival and the approximate time of the family's arrival. However, Alan's mind was already prepared for the schedule. Before leaving Gunnison, Catherine told me that she was going to cook dinner for my guests. In the middle of the day on August 6, I received a phone call. It was an agent from Dulles Airport who told me that my wife wanted to talk to me. We were overwhelmed with joy, Mukobai, Florence's older brother, his wife, Zara, and me. The purpose of the call was not just to announce their arrival but to tell me that the people at the airport were asking her to pay for their bus transportation from Dulles Airport to Ronald Reagan Airport. I told Florence to hand the phone to the person. Without arguing, I paid the amount with my credit card. Getting to the next airport was not easy, but with the help of the right people, they made it to Ronald Reagan Airport. Another phone call came to us. This time, it was to pay for the luggage as the luggage prices were not included in the ticket from Washington, D.C., to Denver International Airport, DIA. In the same way, I still paid over the phone with my credit card. After the conversation, there was no way to communicate because she did not have the phone. What we knew was that they had to stop in Atlanta, Georgia, before coming to Denver. Thinking of saving dollars when booking airline tickets, I was wrong with all the last-minute expenses. Proverbs 3:5-6 says, "Trust in Lord with all your heart and lean not on your own understanding. In all your ways acknowledge him, and he shall direct your paths." During the evening, seeing the arrival time approaching, we went to the airport but first to Alan's workplace to follow his instructions. The plan was to stay outside of the airport and wait. Alan and his friend inside the airport would take them to us. With eyes on the exit door, Madam and the children were exiting, being led by Alan. I was very excited to kiss them, but Alan said we had to hurry because we might have problems with the police. We took off in the direction of Alan's house. They were tired. The meal Alan and his family had offered was not to the children's taste, especially the pizza, which was a whole new menu for them. To remember Chad, Alan brought out the cassettes of songs in Sarah from Chad, and it was a real party, dance and songs mixed. There was Alan's children, their family, those of the house, my basketball team, 7 members of my family, Ramaja, and his parents all together. Unbelievable, but the house was full that night. I called Jack and Amy but also Bonnie to confirm the safe arrival of the family. Bonnie wanted to meet them the same day when we would arrive to Gunnison. Jack and Amy, on the other hand, said that the guests should have dinner at their place before going home. Catherine, the friend I met while looking for cream cheese at Safeway, and her husband Joe said they would bring dinner for the guests as well. I immediately shared all this information with Alan to prepare their mind about Gunnison's program upon arrival. The hosts showed us the rooms to spend the night. In the morning, songs on cassettes resounded in the living room. My family still felt like themselves in Chad with all these memories. Breakfast was offered plentifully. Sometime later, the luggage was loaded, and prayer was pronounced for our protection. We embarked and departed from Thornton. The plan was to stop in Denver, say goodbye to Ramaja's parents, then go to his workplace to get the fridge he gave me to replace mine, which was small and old. After loading the fridge, they took us somewhere for lunch. After the meal, it was finally our effective departure toward Gunnison. The children, still tired, were getting enough sleep. We stopped when we needed to go to the bathroom. As it was August, it was not yet dark outside when we arrived at the courtyard at RMCM Church in Gunnison. We stopped to allow Bonnie and other available church women to meet my family. As they already met them, we continued to Jack and Amy's to eat. After dinner, we came home. Catherine's meal awaited us. Not everyone ate because some were full. Despite the fatigue, we managed to fit the new fridge at its place. I thought of making the children sleep in the living room and giving the 2 bedrooms, one to the couple, Alan and Marilyn, and the other to Jonathan, his wife, and their baby. Alan was telling me that they had booked a motel, so they were going to leave us and go to sleep. As they were to leave immediately for Thornton in the morning, this same evening, they said their goodbye to us until the next reunion. Family life started on August 8, 2012. The family was made up of myself, my wife, Florence, my 14-year-old daughter, Sephora, my 11-year-old son, Khalida, my 9-year-old daughter, Matilda, my 7-year-old son, Daniel, and my 4-year-old daughter, Grace. After 2 days of rest, I returned to work. We went to town, to the grocery store, and to church, and I was everyone's interpreter, except to my wife and Sephora, who tinkered around a bit in English. From a schooling point of view, as everything was arranged by Jack, Amy, and Jackie Burt, the children were accepted into Orsh. The transport problem arose. I was able to drop them off at school in the morning. At the end of school, I was still at my evening shift work. People of goodwill, that I hesitate to name them for fear of forgetting someone, gave rides home to my children during the whole school year because my wife was not yet driving. As I mentioned before, the youngest, Grace, ended up with Nancy, who ran the kindergarten in town. The others, after this 2012 to 2013 school year, continued in public school according to their level. Dad the interpreter finally became a beginner in English compared to the children who had arrived without English vocabulary. Unfortunately, the little ones forgot Sarah over the advantage of English as they came to the age of 4 and 7 years old. Help was pouring in and school supplies were provided. Mark, Joe, and Catherine were part of this blessing. Clothing was provided by church members, like Kay Rutherford and others. But most of the clothes and shoes were donated through Maureen's charitable organization. My landlord, Mark, was a friend of the couple Daryl and Ann. Paintings were donated by Ann. Not only the paintings, but we got other things, such as a wood stove and firewood. Repairs at an affordable cost for the house were by Daryl. My friendship with Daryl and Ann gave me the opportunity to ride a horse in the US. That was the one time I rode, and I did not have any other occasion until today. The firewood was also provided by Dennis Apsey, Matt, our neighbor, and his family, Ken and Becky, and Malloy. For 2 years receiving firewood, the load was not finished until we moved to Grand Junction in 2018. The food pantry blessed us with food continuously. even during the change of managers, such as Joe and Katie Dix, replacing Jeanette Keplinger, and, later, Angie took their place. For transportation, after the Subaru and Toyota minivan offered by Annie and Duncan, and Kevin and Greer, Tim Rutherford, through his neighbor, gave us a vehicle. In 2017, a nice woman gave us a car, Buick model, and Jeanette gave us her car, which lasted until 2020 before being destroyed in an accident. It is my pleasure to mention in this book our African friends, Ayo, Ola, their 2 boys, and Francis. They would come to the house, and as we all went to Rocky Mountain Christian Ministries, we often had the opportunity to stay together. I will not ignore this lesson learned in family life. I wanted Florence and the kids to do things like me when I was alone. No clothes on the floor, no utensils in the sink, and lots of other rules that I had established. Each time, I scolded them. My wife did not do the same things the kids did, but sometimes, I raised my voice when talking to her even though I knew she was allergic to yelling. My point was that my attitude as grumpy dad and husband was contradicted. Every time people from everywhere told them that I was a good guy, they said that I was a good guy outside but not with them at home. After several years, God gave me the grace to be tolerant, patient, and calm. In May or June 2013, my wife, Florence, started working at the Water Wheel Inn Hotel. It did not last because of the hotel's downtime. Around October, she was forced to change jobs, and she joined Sodexo, the cafeteria of Western State Colorado University, WSCU. The Baroumbay family were grateful to Becky Glover and John Cody, who made this permanent work opportunity possible. Later, Madam tried to change to another job at our nursing home, but it was an adventure, and she decided to go back to Sodexo, where she stayed until we moved to Grand Junction. I was supposed to take my U.S. citizenship test in 2013, after 5 years, but the circumstances caused some delay, and I took it in 2015, and I passed the test, which favored my children, who were all under the age of 18, to become U.S. citizens.